Okay, 240. The Mechaber had spoken about, you have different types of lulavim that you cannot be yotze with, or esrog. If it's a lulav of an irani dachas, or a lulav which is an asherah, a tree that was worshipped by the goy, it's possible. You know, there's an interesting concept. The Gemara says in a number of locations, in Sukkah and in Bava Kama, there's a concept known as chsusei michta shira. If something needs a certain volume or a measure, and the din is, the Torah says it must be burnt. Must be burnt. So it must be burnt. Because it must be burnt, we see it as although it hasn't yet been burnt, you see it as a heap of ash. It's lacking the shear. So since all the spoils and the possessions of the rachas must be burnt, Asherah, the Torah says, must be burnt. So since a lulav has to be 4 tefachim, it's lacking in shear. It's like a heap of ash. That's chsusei michtei shira. But something that doesn't have to be burnt, although you're not permitted to benefit from, if you don't have to own it, you could be yotze with it. That's mitzvah lav lehenis ninu, because it's not haloch in shear. So irani dachas, or a shear which has to be burnt, then what? It's not valid. But wait, no. Yeah, any tree that's worshipped, that they worship the tree, right? But he says, but what about you have an idol of a goy? A goy worships an esrog. Okay, okay. You should not take it. We're talking about on the second of Yom Tov that you could be yotze with a esrog that you don't own. You're not permitted to benefit from it. But since that item that he worships doesn't have to be burnt, so what's the halacha? But you're benefiting. You're being yotze the mitzvah. Mitzvah slav the henes nindu. Shear, it has the shear. But that's only if you did not acquire it from the non-Jew. We discussed yesterday. Once a Jew acquires idolatry, then it has to what? It has to be destroyed. It can never be. Then it has to be destroyed. We'll see. But if you took the non-Jews idolatrous esrog after the first day, where you don't have to own it, yotze. It's not lechatchila. Lobina lochem, because one doesn't need lochem. Now, I once told over a story when we studied Avodah Zorah. A certain person I know, he's in the, he collects antiques and silver, and his thing was silver. So very often, just as the priests of pedophiles, many of them, they're also ganovim, they're thieves. The church has all kinds of things. So the sacraments, they have silver vessels. So this certain person said to me that there was a certain person who sold these silver antiques, and it was the pitcher they would use in the church for the wine that they would pour into the, for the sacraments in the church. And this person was offered to buy a few of these pitchers, even though it was stolen merchandise. He wasn't asking because it was stolen. Okay, we're talking about Yush. Yush, Shini, Rishus, not a question. Okay? So the question was, because it's used in their ritual, right? Is he permitted? Not. Originally, these pitchers had a crucifix on top. So the Galochim, the priests who sold it, they broke off the crucifixes. And that's how they sold it, with the crucifix broken off. So I told the person, it's not a question of Yisrael, it's not Yisrael, no. The moment he broke the crucifix, the Gemara says that's negation. That's negating it. That means the person doesn't value it within the context of idolatry any longer. So if a goy negates it, I said to use the pitcher for Kiddush under no circumstance. Right? That's like using the esrog that was originally an esrog which was worshipped, that was negated. That's next halacha, you're not supposed to. L'chatchil, you shouldn't use it. I mean, it's something which is tainted. But if a person has no choice, he can. So I told him he shouldn't under any circumstance buy it. He will not have bracha if he brings this into his house under any circumstance. Even though in terms of monetarily speaking, it's permitted, but bracha he will not have from that. Will not have. See, the same person was bought other. He bought this already. He bought an ivory Chinese Chinaman, but it wasn't a Buddha. It was something similar to that, and they worship it, right? It wasn't like a copy of something. So it cost $10,000. It's a little ivory thing. and carving. So I said, did you purchase it yet? I remember he said, yes, no. I said, if you already bought it, you have to destroy it. You have to destroy it. What? No, that's benefiting. You're not permitted to benefit from it. It's a surround. No, he can't even get his money back. Once he acquires it, it's over. Right? If you put a down payment on it, they say, I'll forget about my down payment. You just keep it. I'm not interested in it. There was another person there. This story was with Steve Kaplan. Steve Kaplan, most of you people don't know Steve Kaplan, so he's an endodontist. So very often, he does work. He doesn't charge his patients. Person can't afford it. And it gives him a very serious reduction. We're trying to drum up some business for him here. So this person, to show his appreciation, he gave him an idol. He went to the Africa somewhere. He brought him back this thing. So he asked me, what should he do with it? And it was made of metal. I said, not expensive. I said, well, you have to destroy it. So it was made of metal. So he went into the stairwell of his building where he works, and he took it. The stairs are made of concrete. And he smashed it on the steps to try to break it. Couldn't break it. Couldn't break the thing. You know, even took a sledgehammer. You couldn't break this thing. It was that kind of thing. I said, Steve, take it, throw it down a sewer. No, throw it down a sewer because you have to put it in a place where nobody else could locate it, because somebody else could benefit from it. Got it in the sewer. Okay, that was the story. Today with cameras, it's not so simple. They may catch you, they'll fine you for it. Yamamelech. Okay, let's take a trip to Israel. They'll find it in his baggage. They'll say, what are you doing? Okay. Okay. A little bit background on Avodah Zarah over here. Shel iri nidachas. Let's see the Mishna Berura. Mishum l'sreifa koi, since it's meant to be burnt. The chsiv es kol shlola tikbots. All its spoils you should gather and burn. V'lulav boy shir, and lulav needs a shear. It has to be arba tvachim. Kidl kamon, kidl kamei sim tafresh nun. V'keven d'ayid l'sreifa, since it's meant to be burnt, koi, and shir kayom. The chsor of domi, it's like it's a heap of ash. Chen posla fil yom sheni. Therefore, you're not yotz even on the second day of the Yom Tov, because it's not a question of ownership. It's lacking in its dimension, in its size. There's a famous Reb Chaim Brisker, when we studied Eruvin here. The halacha is, for an Eruv, you could use a tzuras HaPesach, something which is the equivalent of a doorway. 2 vertical posts with a string going across the top. Right? That's considered mechitza. So if you have an enclosure, let's say your backyard, not Rosh Hashanah, you enclose it with a tzuras HaPesach, is valid. What about a lechi? A lechi is a vertical post, only certain situation, which is 10 tefachim high. So the Rambam rules, it's based on the Gemara, that lechi shel ashera. This lechi was originally part of an ashera tree. The halacha is, it's valid. So the question is, but if it has to be 10 tefachim, so why is it any different than the lulav? Just as regarding lulav, it has to be 4 tefachim, we say chsusim michtashura. Since you see it as a heap of ash, it's not valid. So if the lechi has to be 10 tefachim, so why is it valid lechi if it's a lechi shel ashera? That's what Reb Chaim Brisker is coming to explain. So he says something very simple, that he says, when the halacha is regarding the lulav, you have to have, the lulav means you have to have a palm branch which is 4 tefachim. Let's say you take the palm branch and you would break it into small pieces, and then you artificially attach it. That's not 4 tefachim, right? You need 1 palm branch which is 4 tefachim. What about if you take granules of sand and you build a mound which is 10 tefachim high, right? Granules of sand. Is it a wall? It's a wall, but it's all particles, right? You need 10 tefachim to be a mechitza, but it's all particles. It's not one entity. You don't need one entity. You need something which has a height of 10 tefachim. So let it be considered a heap of ash. It's a whole different concept. Here, the entity has to be 4 tefachim. You need one entity. The entity is a palm branch. Once it's burnt, it's no longer a palm branch. It's made up of particles. But regarding a lechi, it's not a locho. It has to be one entity. You have to something which has a height of 10 tefachim. So whether it's made up of particles or it's one piece of wood, it's irrelevant. It's all the same thing. That's how Reb Chaim differentiates between the lulav and the lechi, or the mechitza. Okay? Simple. Shel ashero. If you have a lulav, a shero tree, hu ilon she'ovdinosa, it's a tree which is worshipped. Yeah. So this is Gemara in Avodah Zarah. The halacha is if a person worships a mountain, right? Person goes to Nepal, the Himalayas. Every hilltop has another whatever is there. Ashram. They have all these guys with the shaven heads, right, running around in saffron robes, which haven't been washed in about 60 years. Okay, that's where they are. So they worship the mountains. There's nothing they don't worship. So maybe you're not permitted to walk on the mountains. Yisur no. So the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, based on Psukim, that mechuber, anything which is naturally part of the ground, doesn't become Yisur no. If you bow to a mountain, the mountain is not affected. It's not affected by it. What about if you take bricks and you build a building? So let's say a person would worship a cave. The cave is permitted. What about you have bricks and you build a structure, and you worship the building? They worship the building, the structure. Then the halacha is Yisrael. Why? Because tolash sof chiber. If you're something which was detached and you attach it, once it's been detached, that's considered artificial attachment. Wait. We'll talk. This is the introduction. That Asherah. That's where I'm going. So the Gemara differentiates. If a tree initially was planted, not as an Asherah tree, even when it's an Asherah tree, and then afterwards they worship it, right? When you plant a tree, it's not a seed. You take a sapling and you put it in the ground. So the sapling was originally detached. So because over there it was originally worshipped, detached, even now that you put it in the ground, it grows, that's considered detached. You ever go to Home Depot and buy some trees to plant? Would you start off with a seed or you start off with a sapling? But I'm telling you, anything which was detached when you plant, you see it, even though it's growing and it's attached, that's called detached. It has to be from the beginning of creation. It's a naturally part of existence. That's what it has to be. So if a tree, every tree which grows from was initially a sapling, that means you had a tree which was put into the ground. It's like the brick. You build the house with the brick. No, it grew big. Tree put into the ground as a tree. No, but that's natural. And that's all part of a natural. That's a natural phenomenon. It's not something, right? You're right. Let's say you have boulders. There's a landslide, and you have boulders. Now you have a mountain made up of. No, that's not natural. That's not. No, because it was detached. Now you have a mountain. Well, let's say you have lava, right? Many initially a lava flow. Okay, so good. A seed is not a tree. That's a different entity. You understand? This is a tree that's planted as a tree. It's a bigger tree now. Before it was a small tree, it's a big tree. You start off as a seed, then it becomes a tree. That tree didn't pre-exist. That's called a tree. So that's what he explained. He planted it, then he worshipped it. Right? This is the introduction to what I'm speaking about. Yeah. He says the fruits are permitted to yeah. We'll leave this for tomorrow. It needs more discussion on it.